I'm Marcy Lundy, and today I'm very happy to have Dr. William Bruno on. Dr. William Bruno is a board certified plastic surgeon based in Beverly Hills, California. Welcome, Dr. Bruno.
Thanks for having me, Marcy. I appreciate it.
Sure thing. If you could tell the audience a bit more about yourself.
Yeah, I'm a plastic surgeon practicing in Beverly Hills, California. I've been in private practice for about 20 years. And probably over the course of the last maybe 8 to 9 years, I developed a keen interest in wellness and longevity after personally finding out I had high cholesterol years ago, which led to a number of tests, which led to me sort of switching and adopting, at the time, a strictly plant-based diet or almost strictly vegan diet, and really trying to look into optimizing my health through exercise, optimizing my sleep. But it really focused first on my nutrition because I realized I was on the standard American diet at the time, which led me down this path of finding out I had coronary artery disease on a routine test, which is called a coronary artery calcium scan, which is basically a CAT scan of the heart. It tells you if you have hard calcifications, also known as plaques. So that's what really got me into the wellness and longevity. It was just sort of my personal journey with my own heart disease, like which is, the number one killer in men and women in the United States. And at that time I was 49 when I discovered it, and like many of us, I think we wish maybe we could have, is there something we could have done sooner? Could this have been detected sooner? Could I have prevented this? So I really focus now on trying to help others prevent these diseases, diagnose them at earlier stages, and then use lifestyle mainly as a way to treat and in some cases reverse some diseases.
Sure, sure. This broadcast will air for, I have two podcasts, Beauties, Aging Gracefully, as well as Cult of Kindness. And the reason I'm doing that is because I think that this is a conversation that just needs to be had across the board. A lot of people, even if they feel like they are doing the right regimen, sometimes they go to the doctor and find out it isn't enough. And so, as a doctor yourself, what would you tell people that they should start doing because it takes steps? Where should people start?
Yeah, I would say in general, I think it's important to try to be more proactive about your own health care. I think most of us, myself included, back at that time, I would only go to the physician if there's a symptom or an issue, right? We don't really go if we're quote unquote healthy. And most people go to the doctor once a year. They get blood drawn once a year, and it says you're quote unquote normal, within normal limits. And that's it. And maybe you see the doctor the next year, and you maybe had like a 10 or 15-minute visit with that doctor. Um, so I think there's so much you can do when you're outside of the doctor's office, and getting into the lifestyle components. Like for me, nutrition I found to be really important. And I'm not suggesting everyone be vegan. I'm not vegan, by the way. I've now adopted, pasture raised eggs. I think if you're going to have meat, have grass fed meat, grass finished meat, things like that. Try to optimize your protein intake. I think as we age, we tend to lose a lot of muscle mass. People don't think of that so much, but trying to get maybe a gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. I think that's a good baseline for men and women to sort of think about. And really trying to just prioritize whole foods. The topic of diet can get very heated with some people, and there's like different sort of tribes, whether it's carnivore, vegan, keto, paleo. But I think most people can agree that try to eat mostly whole foods, like single ingredient food should be probably 80% of your diet. and maybe then some minimally processed foods, but try to avoid the ultra processed foods, which are the snacks and the chips and the cookies and the pastries. Um, and also think about intermittent fasting, which is sort of, they would call this time restricted eating. You know, most people eat, I think the statistic is most Americans eat like 12 to 15 times a day. Means like constantly snacking a little bit here or there every hour, every 90 minutes. And if you could sort of limit, first of all, most of your, nutrition to, let's say, 3 or 4 meals a day, but try to do it in like an 8 to 10 hour window. Like try to eat maybe from 9 a.m. to, I don't know, 5 or 6 in the evening.
Yeah.
And that will help control your blood sugar, helps control insulin levels, and it helps prevent a lot of the chronic diseases that most of us end up dying from, by the way. You know, it's heart disease, one, cancer, two, diabetes, dementia. Those are like in the top maybe 6 or 7. But beyond nutrition, terms of exercise, I think most people are not exercising enough. I think the statistic is it's like 40 or 50% of people are getting the minimum, which is about 150 minutes a week. So say 2.5 hours a week of low intensity cardio, and then maybe try to do 2 or 3 sessions of weight training or resistance training in that week. And, depending on where you're starting, just start with walking. That's a good baseline. Maybe you walk 10 minutes after each meal. That would be great. Maybe 30 minutes a day and just kind of build your way up. Maybe you keep an eye on how many steps you're getting. I think most people are sedentary, meaning that's like less than 4,000 steps a day. And the latest number that came out, it's not 10,000, which is good news to some people. It's 7,000. So if you can get about 7,000 steps a day, you can really reduce risk of heart disease, dementia, and cardiac events, earlier in life. But again, in that exercise component, I would stress the weight training because I think a lot of people think, especially women, they think, oh, that's for men or that's for people that are just in their 20s and 30s. Everybody should be weight training, even if it's body weight, bands, dumbbells. You don't have to be lifting heavy barbells, but at any age. And they've done studies where people started weightlifting in their 70s and they added significant muscle mass. And the reason I'm stressing this is you don't want to fall in an older age and break a hip, and then you have a very high likelihood of dying within 1 year. It's like 30% of people after 65 who break a hip are dead within a year. So having that reserve, having that strength helps prevent that. And then so finally, I'll just finish kind of with the basics would be sleep. A lot of people underestimate sleep. I would say sleep, nutrition, and exercise or movement are sort of the pillars, if you will, the foundation of your health span or your lifespan. And, try to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night. Try to protect it. Try not to be on your screens. Try not to be on TVs or tablets. And if you do, I would use like blue blocker glasses. I've been using these for maybe 7 or 8 years. They're kind of like orange or red tinted glasses, cuts down a lot of the blue light because the blue light from your iPhone or your tablet or your television really cuts down the melatonin release. And we need melatonin to help us fall asleep. And just creating a good hygiene around it. Like start winding down your evening a couple hours before you're actually planning to go to sleep. Try not to do too much stimulating work, eat work emails or anything like that. Try not to exercise too close to bedtime. And most importantly, try not to eat within at least 3 or 4 hours of going to sleep. But those are just a couple of the foundational things I think I would say almost all of us can do. And it doesn't involve any fancy technology or gadgets. I mean, sure, there are things to track. Like I use an Aura ring. I think that's really helpful at tracking sleep. I think, you can use your phone to track your steps. And, there's lots of apps now that can help you track, let's say, your protein intake or maybe your calories. And I don't think people really need to track calories so much. If you're going to pick one thing, I would maybe start thinking about tracking your protein because protein actually becomes even more important as we get older. Actually, you need more protein as we get older, like past the age of, say, 55 or 60. But yeah, I'll stop there. I feel like I was going on a long time.
No, no, wonderful info. Uh, I've read in a number of places that it can be as easy as walking. Is that correct? Is it as easy as walking?
Absolutely. Walking is a great form of movement, exercise. And again, if you had to pick what's the best time to walk, it would
Mhm.
be after each meal for about 10 to 15 minutes because that walk helps lower your blood sugar and it lowers
Mhm.
the insulin release in your body, which helps control blood sugar, helps with weight management, but also helps for overall metabolic health. When I say metabolic health, we're talking about controlling like blood pressure, blood sugar, triglycerides, weight management. And they say about, I think it's 90 to 93% of Americans are not metabolically healthy, which
Mhm.
is crazy. So only like 7% of the population has normal blood pressure, normal blood sugar, normal triglycerides, um, normal body weight, normal, waist circumference, etc. So I think if you're gonna just walk, say 30 minutes a day, do it after each meal, especially after your largest meal of the day. And think about tracking those steps. I actually, up till 2 or 3 years ago, was only getting like 2,500 steps a day because I was either in surgery or in the office seeing patients. So I got a walking pad for my office. They're pretty inexpensive. It's like $200. It's not a desk. I just walk. I can't really work on a computer and walk. Some people can. So it's just a walking pad. So because of that, now I'm up to about 6,000 or 6,500 steps a day. So try to be intentional. Go out of your way and say, I am going to strive for this. And if you're at 2,000 a day, go for 3,000. Some people
Mhm.
you just can't jump to 7 or 10,000 a day. But to your
Yeah.
question, absolutely. Walking, almost everyone can do it. And that's an entry level activity to maybe get you more interested, maybe in cycling or going to the gym or taking a class or something like that.
Okay. I have an aunt that brags she gets 9,000 steps in. That's because she's chasing her great grandchildren. So,
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that definitely is meaningful. Now,
Mhm.
also, I think it is important to maybe get your heart rate up once or twice a week, maybe some high intensity. A lot
Mhm.
of people, high intensity interval training, hit training, where you'll just run really fast for 20 seconds and then take a minute or two break and then, repeat that cycle maybe 5 or 6 times. Intensity does matter, but yeah, if you get 9,000 steps a day, that's fantastic.
Sure, sure. Another thing I wanted to ask is a lot of people are struggling right now just financially. They're not able to buy the food items they perhaps prefer to buy. And so, for those that are dealing with some food insecurity issues, but do want to do the best they can to get their health on track, do you have any suggestions for other ways they could go about this?
Yeah, I think, sometimes if you're trying to eat purely organic, that can certainly be expensive. It can be costly. I think there are some good local farmers markets that people can look into. And, I think, especially when I was mostly plant-based, you can still get great nutrients, great protein, like beans, for example, are relatively inexpensive.
Mhm.
Um, Tofu. So it's not like you have to have like a filet mignon or you have to have these high quality, because if you think about it, meat and dairy is probably the most expensive thing you're going to get at
Mhm.
the grocery store, whereas vegetables generally aren't. And there are a lot of good canned options. But when I specifically talking about beans, I mean you can get your own beans and soak them, but canned beans are an excellent source of fiber, an excellent source of protein, and much less expensive compared to meat. So I don't think everyone needs, because eggs, especially, they've become expensive over the last, year or two. So I think there are alternatives. And then if you are looking to get more protein, I would consider maybe like a whey protein powder or a supplement or a plant-based powder, which, again, can be reasonably cost effective. But I think those are a couple of places where I would start. Like you don't have to have steak every night. I don't know that most people do, but you can still get lots of nutrients if you're really careful and if you're really looking at nutrients like the nutrient dense foods, which are probably mostly the in the plant kingdom more than the animal kingdom.
Sure, sure. Now, going to the plastic surgery end of things, I was wondering, some people, it's totally healthy to want to have that as an option. But when someone comes to you, do you sort of guide them through so that they don't, let's say, make a decision that they will regret later? What is your process when people come in?
Yeah, if someone comes to me, and that's what over the last 8 years, like I have my plastic surgery patients coming in. Let's say they're coming in for a tummy tuck, they have 3 kids, they have stretch marks and loose skin. I would still want to counsel them on optimizing their health going into the surgery, they'll have an easier recovery. And if they're struggling with weight, giving them advice on controlling their weight, maybe losing weight before surgery with some of these dietary strategies, exercise and lifestyle related things. But yeah, if someone came to me and they wanted liposuction, for example, and they were only maybe 5 or 10 pounds overweight, I would counsel them on losing weight first, and then maybe we treat these quote unquote stubborn areas. But I see more and more people now who've lost a lot of weight being on weight loss medicine like Ozempic, and they
Mhm.
lose weight drastically, or they've had weight loss surgery like a gastric sleeve. So they have a lot of loose skin, which there's no exercise or diet for that. Like if you have a lot of loose skin, then we do need to, surgically address that area with maybe it's a tummy tuck or a breast lift or an arm lift or thigh lift or what have you. But first and foremost, I'm a physician, so I'm always trying to give them good advice on disease prevention, weight loss, that sort of thing. And I think plastic surgeon second. So, even when I'm reviewing their labs to clear them for surgery, I'm like, oh, by the way, your cholesterol is really high. You should talk to your doctor about this. Because sometimes I just think the primary care doctors are just going through the motions and signing off things, and they're not really spending much time with their patients. I find myself talking about nutrition way more often than I think primary care doctors do. And I have a lot of patients here in Southern California that go to big HMOs like Kaiser, and it doesn't seem that they're getting the preventive um, advice and assistance that they should be getting. And I think that's part of the reason why you know a lot of Americans are we're at a overweight, obese situation. It's partly is because education. Even when I was in med school, we weren't taught nutrition. We weren't taught how lifestyle interventions can prevent diseases. We were just taught how to treat diseases once they happen. And the American healthcare system's great at that, the acute things, not so good at preventing chronic diseases. So I try to do what I can, even though, a lot of people, they kind of want to look good. Maybe they just want this 2 or 3 hour surgery from me, but I still can't help but try to advise them more long term. Because once the surgery's over, most people still want to like not just look better, they want to feel better and they want to live longer.
Of course.
So I try to guide them.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. I went to the doctor last year just for an annual checkup and was so disheartened because it was just by the book. I'm looking for a little more information and ended up doing my own homework. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was perimenopause to my physician. And it was a woman who was my age. She didn't have a lot of information. So I found myself just going home and doing the work, which felt disappointing. And so I wanted to ask you, when you have women that come into the office that are in perimenopause, is there a regimen, like if they want to have plastic surgery, great, but do you say to them, look, this isn't like a weight loss option. You need to maintain a lifestyle as well. Is that something that is easy to tell women who are a certain age, or is it something you just?
Yeah, I try to stress that with women, whether they're, perimenopausal or even, have passed menopause. But,
Mhm.
I think to your point, you're not getting the information that you as a woman would expect from your physician. And unfortunately, again, it goes back to the education. I don't think a lot of primary care doctors and maybe even gynecologists, they don't know about hormone replacement therapy. And the latest statistic I saw, it's like less than 2% of women over the age of 40 are on hormone replacement therapy. I think
Mhm.
that number should be much higher. I think it is as low as it is because of the Women's Health Initiative that came out about 22 years ago. And it sort of scared a lot of providers off. It had some sort of flawed findings where basically it was trying to give the impression that hormone replacement therapy caused breast cancer and heart disease and so on. And that's not true. So I think a lot more women perimenopausal, postmenopause can absolutely benefit from hormone replacement therapy. And if they're not getting those answers from their primary care or their internist or their gynecologist, they need to, again, be proactive and seek out a functional medicine doctor or a integrative medicine doctor or a naturopathic doctor, someone who might have more experience with that, because there aren't many, primary care doctors who are willing to start a woman on hormone replacement just because there's a stigma that it is not good for them, and that's not true based on what we now know, like in 2025. So I try to guide them as best I can, at least recommending they get their blood test, get your hormones checked. Women can benefit from being on estrogen, progesterone, even testosterone. A lot of women don't know that, but a lot of women can really benefit from testosterone. That's not just for men.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a lot of women of that age in my practice, and I think the hormonal piece should be dealt with someone who specializes in that, and I'll recommend or refer them out. But I think they can do so much on their own with the lifestyle part of it. Again, getting your sleep in order, getting your exercise, optimizing your nutrition. There's so much, that's probably 80% of it. If you can do all that, and then you might think about other things as you're like, hey, should I be doing certain peptides, or should I be doing hot sauna? Should I be doing cold plunge? Things like that, which there's value, but let's start with the basics. A lot of people want to jump to the exotic, sort of interesting NAD infusions and things like that. But if you focus and optimize the basics, all those other things will work better. Like peptides will work better, and you'll get more out of a hot sauna and so on if you're optimizing your just day-to-day life.
Very good. Very good. I know you're based in Southern California. I have a lot of listeners there. So if they're interested in meeting with you or having a consult, if you could just give them information about where they could find you.
Yeah, my website, it's williambrunomd.com. So that's my plastic surgery website, and for the wellness. And there's just a tab like at the top of the page, wellness. And there I have, actually I have two free ebooks that your audience might be interested in. One is just a 14-page ebook on my top 10 longevity tips, and it's very actionable. It's sort of like bullet points, which you can follow quite easily. And then there's another one on how to optimize your body composition, how to build muscle, burn fat, which in addition to that, I created a whole sort of coaching program around how to improve body composition, where it's a 6-month program where patients will get blood work done. We'll get a DEXA scan. A DEXA scan kind of is an X-ray, looks at your percent body fat, muscle mass, et cetera. And we do comprehensive blood work testing, and then I send my patients an Aura ring, and then we meet twice a month, and we move through this 6-month program. Then we repeat the blood work and the DEXA scan at the end. And then I also have a digital longevity course there. If someone wants to do sort of at their own pace, it's like 6 or 7 hours of recorded content, where at the end you can actually create your own longevity blueprint, going through, again, the pillars, so to speak, of nutrition, exercise, sleep, which diagnostic tests you should get at which age, which supplements you might want to be taking, which alternative therapies like hot saunas, et cetera, and which maybe even prescription medications you might need. So yeah, that's probably the best way to find me. I'm also active on Instagram at the same location, which is William Bruno MD.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Bruno. I will definitely take advantage of your ebooks for sure. As the
I
host
hope you enjoy them.
search of. Yeah. Thank you. All right, everyone. I hope that you take advantage of everything that Dr. Bruno said here. And if you're nearby, please take advantage of his services and go on his website. Again, thank you, Dr. Bruno.
Thank you again, Marcy. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Hello, everyone. I'm Marcy Lundy, a Denver-based entrepreneur, wellness advocate, and community leader. My work, whether through skincare, wellness retreats, or community service, is rooted in the belief that kindness, empowerment, and self-care are essential parts of living a full and balanced life. And that's exactly what drew me to Legal Shield. As a Legal Shield associate, I'm proud to represent a company that, since 1972, has made legal protection accessible and affordable for individuals, families, and small businesses. Instead of paying unpredictable hourly legal fees, Legal Shield members pay a simple monthly subscription for access to an entire network of trusted law firms across the country. Whether it's reviewing contracts, preparing a will, handling a traffic ticket, or getting advice on starting a business, members can pick up the phone, open the app, and connect with a qualified attorney in their state without the stress of unexpected costs. Legal Shield also offers small business plans, identity theft protection through ID Shield, and 24/7 access for legal emergencies. It's peace of mind for everyday life and expected moments. Just as I believe in taking care of your mind, body, and spirit, I also believe in taking care of your rights. Empowerment begins when you know you're protected, and Legal Shield gives every person, no matter their background or income, the ability to stand and confidently protect themselves. I'm thrilled to bring this resource to my community, to families, entrepreneurs, caregivers, and individuals who deserve to feel secure and supported in every aspect of life. If you'd like to learn more about how Legal Shield can work for you, I'd love to share how simple and impactful it can be to have legal peace of mind in your corner. You can reach out to me at marcy.lundy@gmail.com. That's marci.lundy@gmail.com. Thank you. And remember, kindness and empowerment go hand in hand. I love you all. Take care.